Nearly 16% of Ukraine's territory is made up of forest, but the problem of illegal logging is becoming more and more critical every year, and the state currently has no effective means of fighting it. Dmytro Karabchuk founded the project Forest Guard. The last few years they have been fighting for the preservation of Ukrainian forests and teaching people what they can do to prevent the illegal logging of trees near their homes. We traveled to the Carpathians to see how illegal loggers are cutting down the forest and what can be done to fight this. We climbed the mountain, which sits above the town of Staryi Sambir in the Lviv region. The day before our trip, locals informed Karabchuk that illegal loggers were sawing down trees on the mountain above the city. We marked these areas on the map and set off for them. Fresh tracks from the tractor and truck wheels have not yet dried out. It appears that they carried wood out of here quite recently. We didn't have to look long for cut down trees. We see the first fallen trunks from behind the blackberry bushes.
Here's a fresh sawdust. Here's a stump. They tried to burn it from this side.
Immediately after the tree is cut down, the stump is sprinkled with fresh earth and mulch so that it is harder to find and identify it.
Here you can see another freshly flat tree. Do you see that? There's a fresh sawdust and it's sprinkled over with soil and mulch. On a stump like this, there should be a mark. A piece of wood should be cut off from the bark. On this cut, there should be a stamp. That means that this is illegal felling. Here's another tree. It's also been logged, maybe a month ago, maybe a little more. A brigade will just come with a tractor and several people with a chainsaw and axes. They come and cut down everything within the reach of the tractor winch, if it has a winch. To load the tractor and transfer the trees to the place of shipment. They do not care whether they have documents or not. This is such a typical example of impudent, illegal logging.
Black loggers are people who illegally chop wood. They're mostly the locals who saw down trees next to their village or city and then bring the trunks to sawmills. Deep tracks made by tractor and truck wheels and caterpillar bands are gradually turning into ditches, which pose an additional danger to residents living in the mountain area. As we climb further, we hear a chainsaw a few hundred meters ahead, and we follow the sound. From a distance, we notice two men. They are chopping up already cut down trees and loading them onto a truck. When they noticed us, they immediately throw down the things and jump into the truck. Why is so much of the forest cut down here? The men are visibly nervous. They weren't pleased with our presence. Do you have a consignment note? The loggers were in such a hurry to leave, they forgot the chainsaw, which remains lodged in the tree trunk. According to preliminary estimates, it seems that this logging is legal, the so-called sanitary kind. This kind of felling is carried out if a tree or a group of trees is sick.
In order to stop the spread of the disease throughout the forest and at the same time use part of the wood for economic purposes, sanitation is carried out. From this side, you can see that the tree is sick. The logging is then conducted throughout, but it remains unclear why they left this wood that has no value from either an economic point of view or from the point of view of preserving biodiversity.
But not all illegal logging is easy to identify. Sometimes the actual number of felled trees is greater than what the documents indicate. Loggers also often use fake certificates. They say that trees need to be taken down because they are diseased.
It's possible that not all trees that are actually cut down are taken into account. You need to put an inquiry to the authorities about whether the logging was done legally, and if so, to what extent. Then you can demand the necessary documents.
As we move forward, we hear the hum of the tractor, so we go towards it. A few minutes later, we hear a chainsaw start up, then another one. Further in the forest, we hear the sound of a tree falling. We notice 3 illegal loggers. One of them is whittling down a felled tree. The others are standing around the tractor. Karabchuk says that this shows all the signs of illegal logging.
We suspect that illegal logging is taking place here, about 200 meters from us. We are calling the police to come and check it out.
Despite the fact that the mountain is located just above the city, we could not get through to the police. We have to ask activists that we know to call the police. At this point, we hide behind the trees and continue to film the loggers. Around 5 minutes later, the police are called. Approximately 5 minutes after the police are called, one of the lumberjacks receives a phone call. He looks around, then runs to his associates. They quickly grab their things and flee. They leave their tractor, which has a broken caterpillar bend.
A minute after a tree was cut, these black loggers covered the stump with mulch, so that it will become darker faster and be less visible. The only thing that bothered us was that right after we reported this to the police, someone called one of these black loggers. There were 3 of them, and this man warned his colleagues, after which they took their things and fled the scene.
Approximately half an hour after our call, the police arrive at the scene. They confirm that this deforestation is illegal.
Of course, it was illegal. To classify this as a crime or administrative offense, I need to know how much damage was done. I appealed to the court to get permission to conduct a technical examination of the forest, and we are conducting it. The results of the examination will help us determine the value of the wood and the damage to the environment, which is determined by the wood species and the volume of wood that was sawed.
According to the police, the investigation into the cutting down of trees can last more than 6 months.
We had examinations, which were started last year. We still haven't got the results. In order to go to court, I need to know what kind of vehicle it is, what license plates it has. This is missing. I can't determine whose tractor this is.
You have already recorded its technical condition. You know what it looks like. You can then identify it when it appears somewhere around the city.
At this point, another person arrives at the scene. He appears to be an employee of the forestry department. We learn that the forest ranger unexpectedly took either sick leave or is on vacation.
Hello, are you on vacation already? From today? We have an authorized logging here, and there are a lot of people here, and they are asking where the forest ranger is. What should I say? What? Logging does happen. They cut here and there, somewhere else there. We're all public inspectors, you see. Maybe if we work together. But the forestry authorities can't do that anymore, not like they used to in the old days. We are happy for any help, because we are also in a difficult situation.
The felled and damaged trees were legally transferred to the district forestry administration. But none of the department representatives knew who would be responsible for the abandoned tractor. They do not rule out that the next day it could be gone. However, they say there's nothing they can do. We climb down the mountain and head to the police department to provide officers with shots of the illegal loggers. The tractor remained at the crime scene. Today we saw nearly every type of forestry violation, the impudence of illegal loggers and the powerlessness of law enforcement, which must fight for the preservation of the forest and punish those who illegally cut it down. We, in turn, will monitor how the police investigate this case and whether they find the perpetrators.
This is in fact only the start of the investigation. Going further, we can only observe this process. But nevertheless, there are lessons that we can learn from this trip in order to work more efficiently.